Good morning, everybody. How are you? So, this morning I decided I wanted to do a different kind of video for my channel. And this video is not going to be very long, but it's going to be passing along a lot of information for those who want to know or need to know. Those of you on YouTube that you happen to watch Shantal, Foodie Beauty, and you're watching her content, and maybe you've heard the term Feederism being tossed around, but you're not quite sure what all that entails. Well, I want to sit down and do a video explaining Feederism and the different types of feeders that there are out there. Again, this is for those that want to know and need to know. For those of you that are on my channel, that this may be a video you may not want to watch, it does not interest you, or it's a bit too dark, I understand. But the term feederism keeps being tossed around by those who want Chantal, and for good reason, because in my opinion, she is catering to the feeders hardcore, and in the process hurting her health more and more. Anybody who watches Chantal, you can see that she's physically, health-wise, on the decline, and the situation is just not getting any better. So I've talked about Chantal's feederism and catering to the feeders on my channel a little bit here and there, but I wanted to put together a video where we really get into it and really getting into the darker side of feederism. I would like to say up front that I support all fetishes, well, at least all fetishes where someone isn't being seriously harmed. There are feeders out there that are not extreme, that don't require someone to completely hurt their health, and I'm okay with that. But the extreme side of feederism that has to do with extreme health effects and someone being immobilized and perhaps even being hospitalized, I'm not okay with that. So let's get into feederism and let's explain what feederism is and the different types of people in feederism that have a feeder fetish and what goes on with them. So I pulled up some different things on the internet and I would like to show them to you. Let me just go ahead and share my screen and we'll start here. All right. So this is from wikidoc.org, Fat Fetishism. Fat fetishism is a sexual fetish in which sexual pleasure is derived from oneself or one's partner being overweight or obese. The preferred weight of a fat fetishist's partner ranges from being mildly overweight to being so obese that they are unable to walk. Feederism, stuffing, and gaining are three main subtypes of fat fetishism. So what's going on with the stuffing? How does that work? Well, let's get into it and find out. Stuffing is a sexual fetish that is very much linked with the feederism fetish. The two can almost be said to go hand in hand. Both fetishes involve becoming sexually aroused by the consumption of large quantities of food. What sets stuffing apart is that its purpose is solely to achieve an extreme state of fullness, unlike in feederisms, in which the express intention is the feeding a willing or sometimes unwilling subject over a period of time and gaining weight from it. Stuffing, on the other hand, is a very short term and involves filling the stomach with as much food or drink as possible, making it distend and bloat to huge proportions. This can be part of feederism where the feeder wants to see some immediate belly bloating results and perhaps force feeds the subject. The actual act of stuffing the belly can be quite sexually stimulating to the subject. When the stomach swells in size, it presses down on these sexual organs, and in some people, this can produce an arousing stimulus. Since it can produce sexual gratification, this can be a solo act, thus feeding yourself as much as possible, filling and swelling your belly to get the desired results. Getting a full belly can make an otherwise flat-bellied person look pregnant. So to men, seeing their girlfriend, wife, or other willing subject, or vice versa, some women like to do this to their men, seeing an illusion of pregnancy can be quite stimulating to them. Many with this fetish also have a great admiration of pregnant women's bellies and may have a pregnancy fetish. This fetish seems to be fairly common, as evidenced by the numerous websites devoted to the subject. Now let's go back and talk about the gaining. Gaining is the fat admiration subculture. It's the practice of intentionally becoming fat or growing fatter. The term was initially associated with the gay community and has more recently been used to describe heterosexual relationships involving erotic weight gain. For some, gaining is an expression of fat fetishism. Others simply seek to grow fat because it's considered to be aesthetically pleasing and/or sexually arousing. A gainer is someone who overeats with the specific intention of becoming overweight, or if already overweight, gaining even more weight. This may be due to a love of food or an appreciation of the feel or appearance of being fat, often combined with a disregard for society norms on body shape. Sometimes it is due to the love of general body size and may be combined with muscle gain. Gainers may also be clinically overweight before they begin gaining, wishing to become even fatter. Other gainers may begin thin and gradually grow to be fat. Gaining is generally regarded as a sexually gratifying experience for those who practice it, although this may or not be the case. The term gainer has connotations of power that the term feedie does not. It is generally associated with someone who is gaining weight because it makes them happy, rather than to please some outside force or to please a partner. A gainer is not a definition submissive or objectified. A common concern among feedies. Gainers may also be encouragers. We'll get into that later. Gainers may set themselves goals, either in body weight or in size. Some gainers only wish to gain small amounts of weight so that they can go from being thin to moderately fat. Others wish to gain tremendous amounts of body fat and become massively obese. Some gainers aspire to be fattened to the point of immobility, and some wish to gain weight to no limit. The idea of immobility is sometimes featured in the fantasies of some gainers, but it is unlikely that very many would actively pursue such a goal for a variety of lifestyle, medical, and social reasons. Moreover, a gainer wishing to become immobile would require a full-time partner to take care of their daily needs, and the number of people willing to take on such a role is fairly small. People who actually succeed in reaching weight goals of 500 pounds or more appear to be uncommon because of the associated impracticalities and health risk of becoming so big. Many gainers curb their goals in the face of medical conditions that may be aggravated by obesity, such as diabetes. Contrary-wise, unhealthiness is one of the obesity's appeals for some gainers, and these gainers willingly embrace any health risks associated with their weight gain. Other gainers seek to be both fat and healthy. Other members of the gaining community. The counterpart to a gainer, corresponding to the feeder in Feederism, is an encourager, whose role, as the name indicates, is to encourage the gainer to reach their weight gain goals. This may or may not include acting as a feeder. A maintainer is one sympathetic to the gaining community, who has intentionally or unintentionally put on weight and is happy to remain at that size or is reluctant to gain more. An appreciator is a fat admirer in the gaining community, who is not interested in either gaining or encouraging, but is content to appreciate what progress has been made by other individuals. Comparing the gaining and the feederism. A gainer is broadly similar to a feedie. However, while feedies may be characterized as submissively gaining weight with the aid of a feeder, gainers generally seek to gain by their own hand, although they may welcome the assistance of an encourager. Additionally, it is not uncommon for a gainer to view their weight gaining as contributing to their physical dominance, rather than an act of submission. In some circles, the terms gainer and encourager may be viewed as homosexual terms, whereas feeder and feedee are viewed by their heterosexual synonyms. While this is a common perception in the weight gain community, it is not a universal attitude, as many heterosexuals who are gaining weight on their own volition without the aid of a feeder generally characterize themselves as gainers rather than feedies. So the feeder fetish it's not just for those who are considering themselves straight or homosexual. It's across the board for everyone. Anyone can do it. And it's just something that's out there. So it's not characterized by sexual identity at all. Variations of feederism. The feeder gainer subculture is quite varied, and just as any subculture, there are different preferences and different tastes. For example, many feeders only like weight gaining ranging from slim to chubby, while others prefer weight gain reaching up to obese and beyond. Different feeders are also known to favor different body parts, just as in any sexual-oriented subculture. Some like large, fattened breasts, while others prefer hips and buttocks, bellies, etc. While most prefer young gainers, they are in short supply compared to the vast amount of older gainers, which some favor. Feederism should not be confused with stuffing, although the feeder may sympathize with its cause. Stuffing is simply feeding someone until the belly is greatly distended with food, thus reaching an effect close to fattening. Feeders generally prefer the acclimation of fat in the body rather than stuffing of food in the belly. Since stuffing has a few long-term effects as opposed to gaining, it is more common to actually practice stuffing. So there's some information for you. There's so many different subfolders to the main folder of feederism, just as there are many different levels to feederism. There could be the light feederism, somebody just enjoying watching somebody eat a certain kind of food. And then there's the other extreme side of feederism, the more dangerous side of feederism, where the person is just eating massive amounts of food and somebody is encouraging them. And even in some cases, it might be a case where the person is being force-fed against their will. Some feeders, they do it for the act of dominance. They want to have power over the other person. It gives them a sense of power and control to make their partner immobile, to where the partner has to rely completely on them for everything. Let's see. Is there anything here? So there's some information about the feeder fetish right there. And if you go back to Shantal's content, I've been watching her for many years, and I've seen many markers and indicators that she caters a lot to the feeders. And why is this wrong? Well, it's wrong because it has to do with her health. She is on the extreme side of the scale. And if you want my opinion, and this is strictly my opinion, I don't know how you guys feel about it, but Shantal caters to the feeders on a public forum and in a public space. Her type of fetish really should be taken to a more private forum, such as OnlyFans, where only those who want to see the fetish and are encouraging the fetish, they could view her there. But I think Shantal looked around long ago, and she saw that there's a lot of competition out there as far as people who are, say, fetish models that have different forums and profiles, maybe on OnlyFans, and she didn't want to compete with them. And she wanted to make sure to get as much traffic as possible. So what she did was she decided to do her fetish content on YouTube, where she would get the most views, the most attention, and there'd be a greater chance of attracting the type of crowd that she was hoping for. So putting fetish material on a YouTube channel and putting tags on her videos and even putting stuff in the titles to whistle in the people that were interested in the feeder fetish. If you guys remember back, way back, when YouTube was allowing the word binge in her titles, she was actively using the word binge. But then after YouTube said, well, you can't do that anymore, or if you do, we're not going to monetize it, Shantal decided to come up with another word, a word that YouTube would not have a problem with. She came up with the word beezing, because YouTube doesn't have a problem with the word beezing. So beezing means misbehaving. But anybody been watching Shantal at that time for a while, they knew what she was talking about, or if they didn't, they quickly found out. So out of the 100% of people that watch Shantal, really she's only catering to, I believe, like 25% of the people. She's catering to that subfolder and folder part of her audience with the feeder fetish, because those people encourage the bad habits. They encourage the food addiction, and they're not going to speak out against it. Plus, fetish guys in that world, they tend to pay well, and they will pay for content. Do you guys notice how she's always encouraging people to contact her on Instagram? Why would she do that, since she's not so much of a people person? Here's my opinion. I think she's going around the block to talk to the feeders, encouraging them to reach out to her on Instagram. Perhaps even they want custom content, say pictures or videos from Shantal, and then they can simply pay her by PayPal or some other means. And she gets 100% of the money right away versus waiting once a month for the YouTube paycheck. So, she's got her side hustle, definitely got her side hustle. But let's get back into the feeder fetish and give you some more terms that you might want to know and how it works. Let me just get out of this screen and go on to the next one. Okay. And I know it might be hard to read, so I'll just read for you guys. What is a feeder? A feeder is a person who is interested and turned on by actively helping others to gain weight, usually by encouraging feedies and setting weight gain goals, but also providing food for the feedie. Do y'all remember the Lakma fairy back at the villa? Yeah, the Lakma fairy. There was also the Paneer fairy. Shantal even said outright on more than a few occasions that there were different people in her audience that were paying for things and buying her things. Maybe those of you in my audience, you might remember when she got the wooden spoon and the wooden fork that she would eat with. Why did she do that? Well, one of the feeder people, he didn't like the sound of the metal fork or spoon hitting the plate. So he bought a wooden spoon and a wooden fork for Shantal to use, and she would use it in her video. So she was catering to that person and their particular kink to that fetish. Anyone at any size can be a feeder at any. However, you tend to find they're generally slimmer and are interested in fattening others, but not themselves. What is a gainer or a mutual gainer? A gainer, unsurprisingly, is interested in gaining weight. However, they are different from a feedie. This is because they get fatter by themselves and do not rely on a feeder to assist with their weight gain. Mutual gainers have a different sort of relationship than a feeder-feedie relationship. This is because they are both gaining weight and enjoy getting fatter together. What is an encourager? An encourager is a person who encourages others who want to gain weight to put on the pounds. An encourager is different from a feeder because they don't provide food for the feedies. They chat and interact with gainers to encourage them to put on more weight and celebrate reaching weight gain goals. An encourager usually doesn't get physically involved in the weight gain process with the person they are encouraging. Usually it is an online role where you chat via text or video links. So I knew about the gainers and I knew about the immobilizers. This was one category that up until a few minutes ago, I did not know about, but it does make sense. And thinking about Shantal and her chat, I can confidently say that I feel that she does have not only feeders in her audience, but also encouragers. People that are in her chat, they know about her issue with food, they know all about her health problems, and yet they talk about food with her, knowing that Talking about food will trigger her. I believe she's got maybe different subfolders always in her live chats because they know of her problem and yet they don't shy away from talking about the source of her problem. The one thing that I don't understand about Chantal, though, since she is essentially turning her YouTube channel into a fetish channel or attempting to, one thing that does puzzle me, the fact that she claims to be at a smaller weight than what she is. Maybe it has to do with her ego. Maybe it has to do with the fact that something in her brain just, she doesn't want to admit that she's gained weight since the BB days. Have you guys noticed that it's always in the 300s? That was the weight that she was at with BB. So if you're someone and you are in a roundabout, covert way, turning your YouTube channel into a fetish channel, you're catering to a certain fetish and people that are interested in that fetish. Why wouldn't you go all in and admit how big you are in public? Since you're making your content public, why not do that? Since that is your goal, to attract more people. But yet she won't seem to do it. People can see her getting bigger and bigger and bigger, but yet she lies about her weight. So I just found that very strange about Chantal. Maybe it has to do with her ego and her pride, but yeah. A fat admirer, commonly referred to as a chubby chaser, is someone who is sexually attracted to larger people. They do not actively assist or encourage others to gain weight like a feeder or encourager, but they have a physical preference for those with larger figures. Fat admirers will date and have sexual relationships with BBW, SSBWs, and BHW, SSBHMS. It is important to note that while all feeders also identify as fat admirers, not all fat admirers are feeders. BBW, SSBBW. Big beautiful woman or supersized big beautiful woman are the terms used to describe a woman who is fat and overweight. Being a BBW or SSBBW doesn't necessarily make you a gainer, feedie, or foodie. The differences between a BBW and SSBBW is the amount they weigh. Generally, there is no specific weight or clothing size that defines the difference between normal and supersize. However, the rule of thumb is that a woman over 350 pounds are considered SSBBWs. Okay, here we are again. The stuffing, bloating, body inflation. These terms refer to specific activities for people who derive sexual pleasure from the feeling of being full. This is done by eating huge amounts of food in binging sessions or bloating with air, water, or carbonated drinks to expand their stomachs. This is a temporary state of feeling full and looking fatter. You can do these activities by yourself or with a partner and use tools like a funnel to help expand your waistline. Now, that's something we haven't seen Chantal do yet. The fact that she hasn't used a funnel yet. And I feel the only reason why she's not used a funnel is because of YouTube, because YouTube they will come down on her for that. But we don't know what's going on in private. She might have used a funnel already. I certainly hope not. But if she did, it really wouldn't surprise me. Padding. This is an activity for those who like the idea of being fat, but are generally a little smaller in size. People who are interested in padding will buy clothes in bigger sizes and use cushions, pillows, and other materials to imitate the physical appearance of being fat. So, as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, there's the main folder of Feederism, but there's tons of subfolders to go with that. You have the feeders, you have stuffing, bloating, you have encouraging, you have the immobilizers. And for those who are wondering, what's the immobilizer thing all about? Well, those are people that like to see other people have trouble doing simple tasks, like, say, walking up a set of stairs or doing housework. That could be part of the feeder fetish. And certainly we've seen a lot of evidence in Chantal's videos where she kind of plays up that she cannot do housework. She has trouble doing the dishes. I mean, I've been watching Shantal for years, and I've seen so many things where she's catering to many different types of people. Aside from the feeder fetish, she's also tried to whistle in other groups that have nothing to do with the feeder fetish. Uh, y'all remember that period where she was getting intoxicated on camera? She was trying to actively recruit or whistle in or attract people that were interested in doing substances. Also, during the Natter period, there were many BDSM overtones. So I feel that she was also trying to whistle in people from that community as well. Like she's always searching all over YouTube for different groups and different communities in an effort to expand the size of her audience, although she's doing it in a very harmful, toxic, negative way. So what else do we have here? One moment. Is that it? I'm just looking real quick. Okay, so going back down here. I need to go back over here to show you guys something else. One moment, please. I got some of my tabs open and I got the wrong one. So sorry about that. Pardon me. There we go. So we have the terminology, a gainer, one who gains weight, generally associated with the gay male community. Although it's not necessarily about sexual identity. A person could be straight or gay or any other sexual identity and still be a gainer or a feedie or a feeder. So like it could be anybody. They could become a feeder or a feedie or a gainer or a bloater. An encourager, one who encourages another, generally a gainer to gain weight. Big beautiful woman, big handsome man. So there's so many different folders here, so many different ones. I mean, this is something to do a deep dive, and I would like to reiterate, when it comes to fetishes, when it comes to different interests and kinks, I have no problem with any kink where the person is having fun, is consensual, and there is absolutely no harm to oneself or anybody involved. But I do have a problem with kinks where one or more parties within the scenario, they are being harmed or it hurts their physical self, emotional self, mental self. So the light feederism, where it's not harmful, fine. But when you get the extreme side of the coin, where the person's health is being affected, like it gets really, really dark, really, really dark. And here's something else that's interesting about the feeder fetish. In some scenarios, like I mentioned, some people might be force fed, but there might be an element of dominance and control with a person who is feeding the other person or providing the food for the other person. Sometimes they want to do it as a means to control that person by making them completely dependent on them. It could be done for insecurity reasons, by fattening up someone to the point where they can't move. That is a way of feeding their insecurity, knowing that the other person can't move and will never leave them. I mean, there could be some psychological reasons tied up with it, but not always. But in my opinion, extreme feederism is harmful for the person who is being fed and getting fatter and becoming more healthy. So what does that mean for Shantal and her channel? Here are my thoughts on that, my closing thoughts. Shantal, you've reached a size and a point in your health that is absolutely critical and dangerous. And this is by your choice. Absolutely by your choice. You've traded 100% of your health for the sake of 25% of people in your audience that may be encouraging your lack of health. And I think that's a very foolish decision. I've been watching you for years, And I've seen so many things where you are catering to different fetishes, to certainly the feeder fetish community. Anyone who's been watching Shantal long enough, if you remember the torrid hauls that she did, uh, she would buy different outfits, and 4 out of the 5 outfits that she would buy would be 2 sizes too small. Why would someone buy clothes 2 sizes too small? Well, that happens to play into the gainer fetish. They like to see those that are being fed to wear clothes that they're having trouble getting into. That points in the direction that they are getting bigger, and that makes them happy. So Chantal bought thousands of dollars in clothes that she never wore on camera, or she barely wore, possibly for fetish pictures or fetish content away from YouTube. Another thing of note, Chantal was caught by the Kiwi Farms on a fetish site. She had a profile there where she was actively looking for people to support her in what she was doing. Once that profile was revealed, she removed it. But in my opinion, she's using other means to talk to different feeders, such as perhaps Instagram or Cameo. Like, her catering to that fetish is actively going on, absolutely actively going on. And it's a foolish decision. Her health is getting worse. How much longer can she go on? And is it wise to cater to the 25% of people in your audience when there's 75% that may want you to get better, and they are there for you no matter what you do? But I wanted to give some information and insight on the feeder fetish. There's the main folder, there are different subfolders, and I'm sure if I look around the internet, I could find out more information about other subfolders that exist. But I wanted to pass along this information to you. And Chantal, if you happen to see this video, I would like to ask that if you're going to do fetish stuff like this, can you please take it off of YouTube and go onto a private forum? And that way, only those who want to see it will see it. Because when the general public sees you doing stuff like the mukbangs and the fact that you're ruining your health on camera in full view of everyone, they may get confused or stressed out or negatively affected by your content. I know that you may not listen to me. You're going to do what you want to do on your camera. But in my opinion, you are using and abusing the YouTube platform to make money in a way in front of the public that you should not be making money in front of the public. The stuff that you're doing is really for private consumption and viewing. But the reason why you decided to bring it to the public is because you got greedy and because you don't like competition. And you would find competition on, say, a campsite or a private site where there would be other ladies and gentlemen doing that kind of content. You want to bypass the competition and put it on a forum where anybody could watch, and you would get money regardless of what you did and how you did it. So this video was made for information for anybody who wanted to know. And I hope that those of you that watched it, perhaps you have a better understanding of Feederism. So if you choose to watch Shantal, that perhaps you'll see what I see, the different things she's doing on camera to cater to the feeders. The sitting in front of the camera with massive amounts of food, which the feeders absolutely love. She's always making sure to show her plate and the massive amount of food on her plate or in the casserole dish. Feeders love that. Chewing with the mouth open, food dripping down her shirt, food dribbling down her face, the O faces, like all of it caters to the feeders. They absolutely love it. Also, other silent indicators of the feeder fetish, when she comes on camera and she's constantly saying that she's full. Gainers and feeders love that too. They want to see her get as stuffed as possible. So there's just so many things, absolutely so many things. So I did this to give a better understanding of her content. So those of you that watch her, you will know what you're looking at. And I hope this video finds you all well. So thank you for watching, for those that did watch, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other. Bye now.